Hello students, my name is Manya from Vigyan IAS Academy. I'll be starting your polity classes, which is a part of General Studies paper 2. Yeah, so we're going to discuss a lot about democracy. So I want you to understand one thing. Let me just briefly explain you what is the portion or syllabus for polity. Your entire Indian polity is divided into three broad topics, right? So the first topic that is important is constitution, right? So we need to know, actually you get a lot of questions from this, that is maximum number of questions come from this part. It could be in prelims or it could be also in mains. And then we have second is important part, that is social justice and governance, right? And the third part that we are going to discuss is obviously your international relations. So I want you to understand that polity is not just static. It's not only static. You need to also have dynamic knowledge, as in you need to relate your answers with current affairs. See, I understand that understanding polity is easy, but still, if you see a lot of people who have scored their mains exam, and the score of GS paper 2 is very less. The reason why the score of GS paper 2 is less is because you need to put proper information in your answer. So your answers should consist of Supreme Court judgments, right? We are going to study a lot of Supreme Court judgments, like we are going to study Berubare case, we are going to study Minerva Mills case, we are going to study Keshwananda Bharti case, right? So we need to know the judgments and the suggestions of all these Supreme Court judgments. Along with this, you need to know some committees, right? For example, recently we have a new education policy in news, and this is based on one of the committee, right? And the head of the committee was Kasturi Rangan committee. So we need to know what are the points that were included in the committee and who was the head of the committee. We need to have information about all this, and we also need to know some reports. So in your answers, when you're writing a GS paper answer, we need to have the information about all these three things. Like you need to have the information about the static portion, like the judgments, and you also need to have the information about the dynamic portion, that is your current affairs. That is when your polity becomes good and your answer becomes proper, so that you will be able to get marks. See, polity is easy, I am not saying no, but people commit silly mistakes, right? So what I would suggest you is, we will try and avoid to not make these mistakes. Now coming to source, obviously constitution, we have the Bible, that is Lakshmikant book, right? I'll be dealing the entire Lakshmikant book, you don't have to worry about this, right? So apart from this, I also want you to study NCRTs. So today basically I am going to start with NCRTs itself, right? So today we'll see class 9 NCRT, right? So first, in class 9 NCRT we have totally 6 chapters. So in today's class I'll be trying to finish your 3 chapters. So what is the first chapter of your NCRT class 9, that is democracy in contemporary world. So now I want you to understand what is the meaning of this contemporary. Contemporary means nothing but modern world. So currently what is the trend of this world, right? So that is what we are going to discuss. Don't worry, don't feel confused, why am I writing these two countries name here. So what has exactly happened in your textbook, if you open your NCRT class 9 and see, what you see is that to make students understand the class 9, the books have written a lot of stories. So I am not going to go into details of every story and explain you what has happened, but what I'll be doing is, I'll be giving you a broad overview of these textbooks. Okay, so we'll see what is there in the first lesson. So we're going to begin with two kind of theories or kind of case studies that is being explained first, to make you understand what is democracy, right? So the first country we'll see is Chile. And the second country that we are going to see is Poland. Now, what has happened with these two countries? Now, why these two countries, are brought together or they are explained together? It's kind of different situations in both the countries. Now, what is the situation in Chile? So, I want you to understand through pictures that here you can see it was actually run by a president, and the president was very good, was thinking for the welfare of the poor and doing land distribution, education, everything. But then what happened here is there's another military person, okay? This person who you can see in the diagram, right? You're not required to remember the names. I just want you to understand the context and what is the problem that happened in that country, right? So I'm not going through names. These will not be asked in your prelims or in your mains. So just briefing out what has happened in the textbook or what is written in the textbook. So the person here, the military person, he actually tries to kill the president, kills the president, and he tries to rule the entire Chile, and that is when dictatorship comes into picture. He puts all the powers to him, or he gives all the power to himself, and he starts ruling the Chile, right? And the same thing happens in Poland, but in Poland the situation is a little different. Now, what is the situation in Poland is, Poland was ruled by only one party, right? And that party was Polish United Workers Party, and it was not at all democratic, or it was not appointed by the people. People were not happy with that particular party. So it was like only one party. Nobody, this party never allowed any other party to come up or make organizations or have any strikes or put in their opinions or something like that. So in this case, in both the cases, you can see in one case there is dictatorship that's happening, that is the entire power is in one person's hand, and in the another case it is with one organization, only one organization is taking the care of the country, right? So nobody is there to oppose them, and neither can people put in their issues, or there is no kind of expression that's happening, or no two-way communication, right? So what the textbook or what your NCERT is trying to tell is that democracy has two features, and the first and foremost important feature of democracy is the people are allowed to choose their own leaders. So in this case also the people did not choose the leaders, in this case also the people did not choose the leaders, right? And in this case also people are not expressing anything, or they're not able to tell what are the problems they are facing, right? So the second important feature of democracy is freedom of expression of their views, and freedom to organize, and freedom to protest against injustice. So here what was happening, imagine this Polish United Workers Party is doing something wrong. Nobody to question, nobody to raise voice against them. So there's only one party that is continuously going on doing whatever they want, right? So these are the important things that you need to know. So this two are examples of what is not democracy. So we need to understand democracy with different examples, right? So finally, anyways, after some period of time with a lot of protest, democracy was established in Poland as well as in Chile, right? But these countries suffered a lot in past. Same as in India as well. India was not independent, and British government were posing a lot of taxes on us and all of that, right? Similarly, these countries also have gone a lot. So with these two examples, what the author of the NCERT is telling is that democracy should have two features. The first feature is the power should be in the hands of people. Power to people. Very, very important. And not only give power, but also give them rights. Rights to speak. Rights to express their feeling. Rights to express what injustice that's happening with them. Right? So now we'll see some kind of journey of your democracy. Okay. Sorry. So I want you to understand the journey of democracy. So before 1900s, very few countries were democratic, right? Very, very few countries. So I wanted to understand, so the first journey or democracy first started with France. I think all of you are aware of French Revolution, right? You will be studying about French Revolution in your history, right? The entire lesson is based on French Revolution. They were not completely democratic, but Some part was based on people, right? Some people were given rights to vote. So partially democratic was French. Then you have to know about USA. USA became independent and became democratic in the year 1787. But still there were a lot of problems, like blacks had no rights to vote. No writing votes at all to black, right? So like this, a lot of problems happened. But what happened here is, how did democracy expand is after Second World War. So what happened after Second World War, that is, you can see the timeline. It is around 1945 that the Second World War ended. After this itself, India also became independent in 1947, right? So by 2005, almost 140 countries became independent. And not only became independent, they also started adopting democracy, and they started also holding on multi-party elections. So that there is nothing like there's only one party which is ruling or something like that. There are maybe one or more than one parties which are coming up, which are doing the welfare development, asking for votes, and people are voting them, right? So this is the entire thing that you need to know. But there are still many countries which are not having this democracy kind of thing. So for one example is Myanmar, right? So after that, what you need to know is, like, some of the democratic experiments are not yet successful. For example, if some countries are trying to experiment democracy, they are not doing so well. Okay. So now I want you to understand democracy in the global level. So can democracy happen in the global level also? They are trying to, but it is not actually democracy. Now, who is taking care of this? There are two organizations. One is UN organization, right? So you must have heard of this United Nations organization. So what these people do is, they write some rules. And rules for what? Rules for the world. Not only for one country, they write the rules for the entire world. Now if you ask how many countries are a part of it, it is 193 countries are a part of UN. That is United Nations organization. Now what these people do is, they start making policies. Now these policies are for not only one country or two countries, it is like for entire world, entire nation. Okay, so why do they make policies? Obviously to maintain what? Peace. Right, so if any two countries are trying to fight, then UN tries to kind of make a kind of peace treaty or something like that, and try not to make them fight, but still a lot of fights are happening. So this is not actually democratic. UN is not actually democratic. Now the major reason why UN is not democratic, I'll tell you. The members here, UN is actually basically divided into two parts. You have 5 permanent countries and you have 10 temporary countries. Now coming to 5 permanent countries, these are going to be always the head. And which are these countries? US, UK, Russia, you have France, and you have China. That means the entire power is almost with these 5 countries, right? And the remaining 10 countries keep on changing every 2 years. It's not fixed. They keep on changing every 2 years. I want you to understand this. Try to find out the history. Instead of China, the 5th country was supposed to be India. At that point of time, Jawaharlal Nehru denied to be a part of UN, and that is when China is now sitting in this part and actually playing a major role, right? So you can just search on this as well, right? So now in this case, what happens is, US is very strong in trying to dominate all the countries, right? So what is happening here is, this is not democracy. Why? Because these 5 countries have a power called veto power. And if any decisions are made by anybody, so if they do not like the decision, then the decision can be straight away denied, or that concept can be straight away denied. So you can say the important decisions are vested with these 5 countries itself. So it's not kind of democracy. Now I want you to understand another important organization, that is International Monetary Fund. Right? So what is International Monetary Fund? It is kind of World Bank. Okay. So this bank gives money to different countries. Now why it gives money? Obviously for the development, right? Now, this bank is also not democratic, or it is not equal. It is having ratings for every country. Now, which country has invested more money, that country has more powers. There are around 7 countries which have contributed, and the members are 188 members of International Monetary Fund, right? So this value becomes more if you have paid more money or contributed more money to IMF, right? Otherwise, your value is less. So now there are 7 countries. Again, you can see there is US, there is UK, right? And you have Japan, you have Russia, you have China, and you have Saudi Arabia. Right? So like this, many different countries are investing money, and the power is again with US. Right? So what I'm trying to tell you here is, so that entire world or globally democracy is not possible, because US being more powerful, it is trying to dominate over the entire world, directly or indirectly. Right? So this is the entire first topic or first lesson is based on this. So what they're trying to tell us in this lesson is that democracy is possible at national level, but it is not possible at international level. And democracy is the best form of government. Why? Because it is giving the powers in the hands of the people. Or they are trying to explain us how the democracy is in the present current world. Right? So here ends the first lesson of 9th standard, or the important topics. See, again I am repeating that your NCERT has a lot of things that is not necessary. Like for example, there's a story, there's a conversation between two students there in the textbook that is written. I am not taking all of that because that's not important for your UPSC point of view. So I am reading the textbook, making notes, whichever is only important for UPSC point of view, and bringing those things and putting here. Now here, possible prelims questions I'll frame and will be given in the form of test. I think all of you are aware of weekly test. We'll be providing you like mains questions as well as prelims questions, right? So let me finish the entire NCERTs first. So I've begun with 9th standard NCERT because 6, 7, 8 is not so important. Maybe we could do it a little later. So according to the instructions that I have got, I have to start with NCERTs. That's why I've started with 9th standard NCERTs. So this is basically kind of revision, or it is kind of skimming through NCERTs. Your basic class will start after 10 days, because I would at least require 12 days to finish your NCERT. 9th standard NCERT will take 2 days. 10th standard NCERT will take another 2 days. 11th, you have 2 books, part 1 and part 2. So each book, if I consider to be 2 days, I'll take 4 days to complete your 11th NCERT. Similarly, I'll take another 4 days to complete your 12th NCERT. And that is how the entire thing is being planned. Then after that, I'll start with your Constitution of India. Probably we'll start with, citizenship, preamble, fundamental rights, right? Like this will start with your Constitution. So once you finish the entire polity of classes of mine, class notes are more than enough. I'll cover entire NCERT's, entire Lakshmikant, and you will be prepared for GS paper 2, right? Once the entire polity is completed, we'll try to solve previous year GS paper 2 questions, etc. And I think you all are going through current affair classes as well. So try and relate to whatever you have studied with the previous static portion knowledge to your current affairs as well. So this is how you need to study your or prepare for your UPSC. Right. So now the next lesson that we are going to discuss is what is democracy and why democracy. So first let us answer the question, what is democracy. So try and understand. Previously in the first lesson also we have told, or we have understood, that democracy is nothing but it is a form of government. Of course, it is a form of government where the rulers are elected by the people. Right. So this is like, there are many countries in which they say they are democratic. Okay, the people are elected, but the powers are not with those people whom the people elect, right? For example, let us imagine now we have Prime Minister, right? Now this Prime Minister is elected by MLAs and MPs, etc. And these MLAs and MPs are elected by people here, right? So you can say people have power. So people elect MLAs and MLAs elect Prime Minister. So indirectly you can say people elect Prime Minister in indirect manner, right? So people are electing or forming the government in the indirect form. But imagine if the Prime Minister has no powers and there is some other person A who has powers. So what is this entire process? Waste, right? So democracy is a form of government in which the ruler is who? Your Prime Minister. He is elected by whom? He is elected by people itself. So very important, when we go through more examples, you will understand what I am trying to tell you by the means of ruler is elected by the people. So important definition is that democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. Now some examples are given, like Myanmar army, or director Pinochet. Pinochet is from Chile, right? President from Ghana are not democratic, right? So they were not chosen by the people. It could be the example of Poland, or it could be the example of your Chile, right? Or it could be example of Myanmar. So in these three cases, what had happened is the ruler was not selected or elected by the people, right? So it is not democracy. So hereditary kings like Nepal and Saudi Arabia. Now also you see Saudi Arabia is being taken care by the kings there. So we have the kings, we have the prince there. We do not have prime minister or we do not have president, right? So these kings are also not democratic rulers because they are born into a noble families. So the father and then the son will continue and then their son will continue. So like this, the families are taking care of that particular countries and not the people. So these are all not democratic. So I want you to understand the differences between the democracy and not democracy, right? So this entire book we are only going to study about democracy. So let me be clear. So the third lesson will be constitution framing. Fourth lesson will be electoral politics. Fifth lesson is working of institution, and last lesson is democratic rights. So like this entire 9th standard textbook of NCERT polity or government democratical politics is basically about democracy. So name of the textbook itself mentions democratical politics. So we are only going to study about democracy here, right? So we'll see some features of democracy. So this could be asked in prelims, which are the following are the features of the democracy, 1 and 2 only. Like this could be a question that has been formed, right? So first feature, we'll take up example and we'll take up the feature as well, right? So I want you to understand what had happened in Pakistan. In Pakistan, we have a president and he was supposed to be a military chief. His name was Parvez Musharraf. He actually, dismisses all the powers, or he has the powers to dismiss all the national and state assemblies. So he has all the powers with him. And these powers are not given by people. He has taken these powers. So what happens is he becomes the president and he puts or he changes the entire constitution as well. The constitution is completely changed. And in the constitution, what he does is he makes the president more powerful, right? I'm sorry for this. He makes the president more powerful. He changes the entire constitution and he makes the president more powerful. That president can even dismiss the national and state assemblies. So the final power rests with the army and the general chief himself. So this is also not called democracy. That means, Pakistan claims themselves to be the democracy, but they are not. Why? Because there also elections happen. But the people or the ministers who are elected by the normal people have no power at all, because the power is with whom? It is with the general or with this president, right? So first important feature of democracy is, in the democracy, final decision making power must rest with those elected by people. That is, if we are electing prime minister, and that person should have all the powers, right? So that person should have all the powers. That is the first important feature. So if people are electing someone and that person who is elected by the people should have all the powers, then it is proper democracy. we elect somebody and somebody else is ruling the country, it is not democracy, right? So this is the first example that you need to know, right? So this, let us see the second feature, very very important feature, right? And this is also belonging to one country. I hope all of you are able to understand which country, right? So what happens in China? I have very specifically mentioned this, right? Chinese Communist Party. Now these I have associated with small 8 allies party, okay? Now what happens in Chinese Communist Party is, this party does not allow any other party to come. So it's like in India, if you take example, Congress is not allowing any other parties to come up. No BJP, no JDS, no other parties, no Aam Aadmi Party, no other parties, right? So that was happening in China. So in China there was only one party, and that is Chinese Communist Party, and it had some small parties. So obviously the small parties would also support China itself. So Chinese Communist Party and its other 8 parties only ruled the entire China. They did not allow anybody else to rule at all. Another such example is seen in Mexico. In Mexico we have PRI. Actually it is in the reverse form. Institution of Revolutionary Party. Right? So the name is Institution of Revolutionary Party. This party, every 6 years there is an election that happens. Okay. But what happens here is, this party does not allow any other party to participate. Even if they participate, what happens here is, like they deny the opposition. And what happens is, like there will be a polling both in one place. People have to come and put vote here. They, at the last minute, they try to change this place. So people are not even aware where the elections are happening. Right? So in Chinese Communist Party, they are not allowing anybody else to come. Right? Similarly in Mexico also, PIR is not allowing any other party to come. So it's not fair enough. So they are the only party which are ruling the country from long time ago, right? So that is the second, that makes the second important feature, that is a democracy must be based on free and fair elections, where those current powers have fair challenges of losing as well. Right? So right now you can see, next elections BJP may come into power or Congress may come into power. We don't know based on the votes. So it's not that Congress will always lead or something like that. Right? So it all depends, or the situation should be such that the existing party may also have a fear of losing if it does not work properly, or if it does not fulfill the needs of the people properly. Right? So next thing. So I want you to understand here, important, again, I'll give you examples of different countries. So here you see Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, what happens is, women are not allowed to vote. No voting rights at all. Right? And in Fiji, okay, I'll tell you what happens. If you belong to this island, then your vote is considered as one vote. Okay, but if you do not belong to this island, then your vote is considered as half vote. So the value of vote here, at least no value only for women, right? If women is trying to vote, there's no value only given. In Fiji, the vote of value is different. It's something like in India, if you're doing discrimination, males votes are considered to be one vote and female votes are considered to be half vote, something like that. So here the vote that is being casted is not considered or not equally distributed. So the third important feature of your democracy is, actually in proper words, it is one vote, one value, right? So every vote should have the same value. In a democracy, people's will is uncertainty by each adult citizen having one vote, and each vote has one value. Democracy is based on fundamental principles of political equality. So we are not going to discriminate. Here there is discrimination done on gender basis. That is, men can vote and women cannot vote, right? So the discrimination is done on the basis of the gender here. And here the discrimination is done on the basis of being a citizen or not being a citizen. So if you are belonging to Fiji, then one vote. If you're not belonging to Fiji, then half vote. So again, discrimination. So what they say here is, in politics and in democratical politics, there should not be any kind of discrimination. There is always a political equality. So that is what they're trying to explain us through the third particular feature. Now coming to the last feature, a very important feature again, right? So democratical government cannot do what it likes to do. Okay, I want you to understand this one as well, right? Here we are going to take another example, an example of Robert Mugabe, right? So he is a president of Zimbabwe. Now here what happens is there's only one party again, and the name of the party is JANU PF, right? So yeah, it's not your JANU, it's JANU PF. So JANU PF party, these people are also doing this same thing. What these people do, I'll tell you, okay? So courts are, not given authority to take decision. Courts are going to listen what the party says. Media shows good things about JANU PF, right? And it shows bad things about other parties, right? So entire media is being controlled, entire courts are being controlled, everything is controlled by whom? Only one party, right? So that is by Robert Mugabe. That is your president. Here what is happening here is nobody is there to question them. So there's a lot of injustice that's happening, and nobody is able to question them, and they are not giving any account to people as well. So this is a case in Zimbabwe, and this is also not democracy. So from here we understand the last and the fourth important feature of democracy, that is democratic government rules within limits set by constitution and citizen rights. So in India it's not like that, right? So we have media, we have freedom of expression, and media will try to show bad things about both the governments and the opposition, right? So here what they're trying to tell us is that government is working under some limitations. It's not that you come into power, you have given all the power. No, here Supreme Court is more powerful, right? You can go and question and file a case against government as well if if they have done something wrong, or if they are trying to take away any of your right, citizen right, it could be fundamental right, you can go to courts and question it there, right? So that is what they're trying to tell us in the fourth important feature of democracy, wherein government is not given the entire power, right? It is working in its limits, right? Now we'll see some good things and some bad things, right, about democracy. See, when you choose anything, you have both good things also, you have bad things also. But we are still choosing democracy now. Why are we still choosing democracy even though it has bad qualities? And what are the good qualities that we have seen? We'll see all these things. First, let us see the bad qualities, right? Now, why democracy, or what are the points against democracy? Now what happens here is, I hope all of you are understanding. Try to understand and try to relate the topics. Okay. First important thing is it creates instability. I'll tell you the reason. Now see, for first 5 years it is Congress, right? After that it is BJP. Now see, Congress runs on the different principles. BJP is running on the different principles, right? So like this, different governments are running on different principles. So in that case, what happens here is, there is a lot of, misunderstanding or miscommunication that happens, right? So the government that is formed is not stable. It is unstable form of government. Then, democracy is about power play and political competition. So there is no scope of morality. Now what happens is, you might have seen a lot of scams happening, a lot of cases happening. So people to win, just are trying to win the power, right? And to win that power, they can go to any extent. They are not seeing the moral values there, they are only seeing the political competition, right? So many people have been consulted before the issue is solved, so it leads to delay. So you understand, if you want to pass a bill, it should be passed in Rajya Sabha, a lot of people have to vote, and then Lok Sabha, then the president have to give consent. So a lot of things are happening, so it is going to get delayed. If you want to pass one bill, so it's going to take a long time. So GST bill was proposed in some time, it got passed in some year, right? So it's going to take a long period. It's going to become a little delayed. Elected leaders do know what is the best for the interest of the people. Now, for example, if I am elected, I don't know what exactly the people want, right? So I don't know how do I act, or what do I act so that all the people are happy. So it's not possible for me to satisfy everyone. If I do not allow the industrial development to happen, then industrialists are going to be sad with me, and poor people, like there is always going to be a conflict, right? So I don't know what is best for the people. It leads to corruption for its base of electoral corruption, right? So when you have stood for election, you need a lot of money, and you got to do a lot of campaigning, etc. So what happens here is you are going to lose a lot of money, so you start becoming corrupt once you come into power. Ordinary people don't know what is good for them, so decision making should not be left to them. So what happens here is, now we are educated, okay, there are a lot of people who are educated, they know which is good form of government. But when you go to poor people, you just give them 1,000 rupees, or you just give them something, or anything. What they do is they just give you vote, irrespective. They have no decision making power, wherein they'll not understand which government is going to do welfare, which government is going to do good for them, etc. So many ordinary people have no decision making power, right? So these are all some of the drawbacks of our existing democracy, right? So now what can be done, or what are the good things of democracy? We can't do anything with this because this is going to go on, but there are certain good things. But still many countries have come up with democracy. That means there is something good in democracy, right? So let us see what is that good things about democracy. The first important thing that we need to know is democracy is more accountable form of government. That is, in 5 years, what have you done? The existing government, you can go and question them on basis of what have you done, what improvements have you done in this 5 years when you were in power, right? So that is the first important thing, that is accountability. Or who is answerable right now if we are in trouble? Narendra Modi sir, right? Why? Because being the prime minister, he has promised us that he'll do something in 5 years, and he has to do it. So we have right to question them. If not the people, then there is at least the opposition party, somebody else. We have media, we have a lot of ways to question the government, right? Democracy improves the quality of decision making. Why? See, we had a drawback that it is slow, but it is very good. Why? Because it's not just one person, it is many people who are taking that decision. So it is not only in one person's point of view, it is in many different point of views. So when many different point of views come into picture, they'll make sure that it is for the betterment of the people, right? So nobody is thinking only about their interest. They are making sure that the people are happy, right? Then democracy provides a method to deal with the differences and conflicts. So if there are any two parties fighting or conflicting or anything, they try to sit together and talk. It is not going to be a war, right? So in democracy, what happens is people sit together, they talk to each other, and they're trying to solve the problems. Right? Democracy enhances the dignity of the citizen. Why? Because I am more powerful, so I have some respect, I have some dignity, right? So I will be getting some respect, as well as I'll be getting some dignity. It allows us to correct our mistake. Very, very important thing. Now we have by mistakenly chosen any party, right? It's not that they are going to be forever in power, right? So after every 5 years, we have elections. So if this particular government is not working properly, then what I can do is I can shift my choice, right? So I can shift my choice, and I can do what? I can correct my mistake. So these are some of the important topics or arguments that are for democracy, or democracy is good. So we can understand that even though it is having some bad qualities, it is a better form of government than any other, right? So this is all about your second lesson, right? Now we'll come to the last lesson that we'll be studying today, that is constitutional framework, right? So now what happens here is, every democratic country has some constitution. Now what is this constitution? To be very specific, it is a kind of rule book. Constitution is nothing but it is what? A rule book in which rules are written. Now we have different forms of constitution, different types of constitution, that and all I'll be discussing once we finish the NCERTs, right? So this is all about NCERT. Now if you're not understanding anything also, don't worry so much. It is the first class of polity, it's fine. Once I start your main portion, that is once I start your polity, not NCERTs, and I start it as a subject, right? I will explain each and every word again. right? I will explain you the definition of each and every word, right? So don't have to worry so much, it's just the beginning. Now whatever is there in your textbook, only that is mentioned in this particular slide, right? So I'm not going in details, right? I'm not going to go in depth with any topic and explain right now, because right now I'm explaining it from NCERT point of view, not in a political point of view. So once we finish the NCERTs, I'll start with your GS paper 2. In that case, I'll be explaining you every single detail, right? I'll be explaining you what is the meaning of a comma and what is the meaning of a full stop in a constitution, because that also makes a difference, right? So we are going to again see another example. Your textbook is come up with another example here. It is going to talk about South Africa. Now South Africa was, dominated. Here you have two people, two communities, white people and black people, right? So there were a lot of discrimination that happened between white people and black people. Now what were the discriminations that happened was, the first important thing is that, white people and black people had segregation, or they had separation policy. According to separation policy, the white people and black people are not supposed to stay together. They cannot stay in the same colony or something like that. Black people can work in the house of white people as, workers or drivers or cleaners or something, that also with the permission of the white people, right? So there was so much of differentiation, so much of, discrimination you can see. Apart from that, they had separate churches, separate toilets, separate beaches, separate hotels for whites as well as blacks. They were not allowed to come together, right? So these are certain things that happened there, right? So you can see here, Nelson Mandela, the South African leader. So this is nothing but actually apartheid. The process that I was talking about, this discrimination, was apartheid, in which whites and blacks were separated, right? Now, very important famous leader, Nelson Mandela, fought against it, right? A lot of, strikes were done. A lot of white people also joined the strike, and after a lot of strike, white people had to, come down, and they had to sit together with black people and make a constitution. Now, making of constitution in South Africa was not easy. I'll tell you the reasons. Okay, so here your white people who oppressed the black people and the black people who got oppressed by the white people, both together had to live in the same country, wherein white people were also there and black people were also there, right? So it was very difficult, and black people were not able to trust white people. Why? Because they have been, dominated, they have been troubled by them. So how will you trust them? So it was very difficult for the black people to trust the white people. So this is some major challenges. And black people wanted majority ruling, like they wanted elections to happen, people to be chosen, and white people did not want to lose their privileges. They had a lot of privileges and they did not want to lose. So like this, there were a lot of conflicts. Then, okay, so I want you to understand this here in this line. So apartheid finally defeated in 1994 and a new constitution was made in 1996. So there was kind of 2-year discussion that happened. So 2 years they sat together and they discussed. That is, white people and black people came together, they discussed, and they made one of the finest, remarkable constitutions, wherein both white people as well as black people stay happily. They are staying now happily together in one country. So such a kind of constitution was made, right, with different ideologies. It is based on, again, see, equality, democratic values and social justice. So this is the entire story of South Africa. As I have told you, your NCERT has come up with a lot of stories. Now we'll see the major topic, that is, why do we need a democracy, or why do we need a constitution, right? Now what happens in the constitution is, actually every country has its own constitution, and it is a kind of set of laws that is accepted by all the people, right? So there is nothing like constitution is not different for white people and black people. It is same for everybody. In India, it is not different for rich or poor, or male and female. The constitution is same for everybody, right? So it is a kind of law book that is written, right? So it makes the living together, or people are living together, right? It generates a kind of trust and coordination. So you know whom to trust now. You know that you can go and trust on constitution. Why? Because you will get justice from constitution, right? It specifies how the government should be constituted. It lays down limits on the powers. You see, we have to discuss this before also, right? One of the features of democracy is that it should be limited. So who is limiting them? Constitution is limiting them. Constitution is telling that these are your rights. Only here you can work. You cannot go beyond this and start working, right? You cannot kill anybody just like that. Only because you're a police officer, that does not mean you go on shooting everyone, right? So you have your own limits as well, and all these limits, laws, are written in a book, and that book is your constitution. It expresses the aspirations of people about creating good society. So we are trying to kind of create a good society. How are we trying to create a good society? Because in constitution we have something called as equality. So in society there is equality. So there's equality based on gender. There's no gender discrimination. There's no caste based discrimination. There's no age based discrimination, right? So we're trying to create equality. We're trying to create opportunities for everyone. So we are trying to maintain equality, and we are trying to keep a good society with the help of constitution. Now, making of Indian constitution. So we have seen South African constitution. Now let us come back to Indian constitution. So how Indian constitution was made. So the process started beginning during the freedom struggle itself, right? So we had the first draft in 1928. Then in 1931, Motilal Nehru and other 8 leaders demanded the draft: universal adult franchise, social justice, right to freedom and liberty. I want you to understand one thing. First is, what is universal adult franchise, and in which country this was started before? So this is a kind of question that I've given you in the assignment. I'll be discussing this in tomorrow's class. I'll give you the answer for this, right? Universal adult franchise is nothing but everybody gets to vote. If you are an adult, that is, if you are cross the age of 18, or if you are an 18-year-old person, then irrespective, whatever caste you belong to, whatever gender you belong to, whatever place of birth you are from, or wherever you come from, if you are an Indian, you are allowed to vote in India, right? So universal adult franchisee is a person who is adult, has a right to vote, right? So try and answer which country started universal adult franchisee, right? Now, participation of provincial legislatures helped Indian in framing their constitution, right? So what had happened is, we know that when British government was going on, some people were given some rights. So that also helped us make Indian constitution. Leaders were inspired by French Revolution, British parliamentary system, and Bill of Rights of US. So like this, our constitution is not based on one constitution. We have seen a lot of constitution, read, understood, and then drafted our constitution, right? So it is having crux of French Revolution, it is having crux of US, it is having some kind of principles of British as well, right? So like this, we have a lot of things in mixed together and made one constitution. They also learned what British were denying Indian citizens, that is basic rights. Now, Constitutional Assembly, okay. So there was a Constitutional Assembly. Now to make constitution, there was one kind of assembly that was there. So what was this assembly all about, right? Elections to constitutional assemblies were held in July 1946. Dr. Ambedkar, B.R. Ambedkar was appointed as the chairman of the drafting committee. When we are doing Lakshmikant, I'll also tell other members of this, right, committee. Constitution was adopted on 26 November 1949 and it got enacted on 26 January 1950. And India became republic. So the constitution reflects the best minds of the country. It represented mini India. Every law was debated clause by clause and consensus were arrived. So every law was having a debate and we had a lot of clause and everything was discussed, and then we have drafted one kind of constitution. And now we have the present constitution, which is the longest written constitution, or the lengthiest or the largest constitution in the entire world. Okay, now our constitution had some guiding values, some ideologies, right? So now what are these ideologies? What are these guiding values? We'll see. Okay. So the leaders like Mahatma Gandhi ji, B.R. Ambedkar, Jawaharlal Nehru, put forward their views about dreams and promises of constitution making nation. So like Mahatma Gandhi ji has written a letter in which he tells what kind of constitution has to be written. Jawaharlal Nehru has put in his own way of making the constitution, right? If you read the 9th standard NCERT, you will go through these letters. I'm not going into it. Okay, yes, because it's not important from your UPSC point of view, right? So here, preamble of the constitution speaks about the philosophy. Like, I want you to understand what is preamble, because we are going to do preamble once we start main classes, that is Indian polity, Constitution of India, Lakshmikant. There's one entire lesson on preamble. So you need to understand the basics of it. So I want you to understand what is preamble. Preamble is nothing but it's like a trailer. So if you have an entire movie, the constitution is like an entire movie. This entire movie, has a trailer, right? Maybe a minute or 2 minute trailer. So this preamble is like a trailer of the entire movie. So what is there inside, or on what principle my constitution is going to be based on, is written in my preamble, right? So entire constitution is built. It is a soul of Indian constitution. So following values are mentioned in the preamble, like sovereignty, socialism, secularism, democratic republic, nature of India, justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. I want you to understand, see, anyways when I'm doing, as I've told you, anyways when I'm doing preamble, I am going to explain each and everything. Okay, democratic means, the rulers are elected by the people. That is what we have discussed so far, right? From past 15 minutes I am discussing the same thing, that democracy means the power is in the hands of people. Then we have discussed republic, right? So what is the meaning of republic? So I want you people to do this kind of assignment. I'll be giving you daily based assignment. I want everybody to do these assignments. Now the reason is, I want you to go through whatever has happened in the class. For example, if I am taking a class and if you just listen to it and don't do any assignments that are given, then it is of no use. Now I want you to understand, I will be giving the PPT slides, right, of this particular class. So how do you have to prepare for this subject is, first important thing, don't read anything out of my notes. It will be more than enough for you to frame your answers, right? I'll also put in current affair topics necessarily, if necessary, right? If we are discussing any topic and anything that's happening in the current, I'll add on to it, right? So when we are studying citizenship, I'll add on a lot of things like NCR and NRC and all of that, right? So I want you to understand that when I'm teaching, along with my teaching, I want you to also make notes of your own. I will share the PPT slides with you, right? I'm not saying I'll not do that, but along with that, I want you to write it with your own hands and make proper notes out of it. The reason is, see, there are a lot of benefits when you're doing this. One important benefit is that you will improvise on your handwriting and you will improvise on your speed. You will get a proper way to write. And I also would recommend everybody to read NCERT. Now see, as I've already explained you everything, if you go and read these 3 chapters, you will just finish it in 10-15 minutes. Trust me on this. Why? Because you've already understood what is there in the NCERT. Right? So I've explained you all the stories also. So even if you read the stories that are written in NCERTs, you will make some sense, or you will understand what is written, because I've already explained you. And I would recommend you to read NCERTs because it will help you write the answers better. Your English will improvise. Right? So try to do the homework. You have any doubts, please make a note of it, right? Anyways, when we are going to have a discussion class in the weekend, we can discuss on these particular topics, right? And do it like, the collaboration and kind of interaction is required. Interaction as in, you need to ask questions, and please do the assignments that are given day to day. Don't try to postpone it, because when you postpone, what happens here is it will be like you will be into problem. The reason is you keep on postponing and tomorrow never comes. So try to do the assignments well advanced in before. Tomorrow we'll see the remaining 3 lessons. That is, I'll be telling you what we are going to see in tomorrow's class. First thing that we are going to see is electoral politics, how elections are taking place in India, right? And then we are seeing how institutions work, like what is parliamentary system, how judiciary is going to work, right? And then we are going to see some democratic rights, right? So we are going to see these important topics, and that will end your class 9th NCERT, right? If possible, try to take one A4 size sheet and make a mind map also, like hardly 6 lessons. What are the important topics, right? So we have last 5 minutes. I just want to discuss we'll do a kind of small revision, right, in what all we have discussed from in today's class. Okay, so the first part that we discussed was the democracy in the contemporary world, right? We have discussed about two important cities and two important countries and what problems they faced, and what is your democracy telling you. That is, democracy is a form of government in which the people have given the power. People have a freedom to express their views, right? Organize and protest against justice. And then we have seen the entire journey. The first country or first place where democracy started was French, through its French Revolution. Then US became independent in the year 1787, right? And like this, before 1900s, very few countries. After 1900, especially after Second World War, a lot of countries became independent and became democratic, right? That is by 2005, around 140 countries were democratic. Then we have seen, can democracy be in the form of global way? That is, we have seen about United Nation Organization. We have 5 permanent countries, and we have 10 temporary countries which keep changing every 2 years. We have discussed about International Monetary Fund, right? And then we have seen what is democracy, why democracy. In this lesson, we have studied that what is democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people, right? We have seen how it is not democracy. Like some countries like Myanmar, Chile, Poland are not democratic, and we have also seen heredity kings, or these things are also not democratic, right? Then apart from this, we have seen features of democracy, right? The first important feature is, yes, the power should be given to the person who is elected by the people, right? And not somebody who is not elected by the people. The second important thing that you need to know is that it should be free and fair elections, right? Everybody should get a fair chance to stand for elections, right? And then you have one vote, one value system. That is, everybody should be treated equally, and everybody's votes should also be treated equally. The last thing is that the constitution or the government has to work with the limitations of the constitution or with limitations of some laws. It's not that if they have got power, they have got to do anything, right? Then we have seen what are the drawbacks, like what are the positives and what are the negatives. So the positives of democracy are, the negatives of democracy are that there is a changing government, so there is no stability. Then you have political competition, right? And you have kind of corruption that happens, and the people do not know whom to vote. Sometimes there is mistakes that they do, and the process is very slow, right? We have seen all these topics. And then what are the good things that we have is, as the decision is taken by many people, it's a stable decision, taken in the fair, for the betterment of the people, right? It allows to correct our mistakes. That is, after every 5 years, if we have not chosen a proper government, we have a possibility that we can go change our government, right? And then we'll see what is constitutional framework. We have discussed about South Africa, that there was a kind of differences that was happening between whites and blacks, right? And whites were not able to stay properly with blacks. Blacks were not able to trust whites. But after 28 years of being in prison, okay, Nelson Mandela becomes the first president and ends the apartheid and comes up with a proper, finest framework constitution, right, which is working well right now. And we have seen about what are the different, what is the need of constitution, like why do we need it? It is kind of to build a social trust, to trust somebody, to have a proper society, yes, and so that all the people are able to, stick to one law. We have this constitution, right? And we have seen different making of constitution, how Indian constitution was made. I have asked you a question, right? I want you to answer which country started with universal adult franchise, right? And then we studied about Indian Constitutional Assembly, some ideologies, guidances, and I have asked you to write or understand the meanings of sovereign, socialism, secularism, democratic, republic, and what is the nature of India. That is justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, right? So I hope you like the class, and you have any other doubts, you can anyways keep a note of it and ask me in the weekend, right? Thank you so much.